We're now about 1 day into the ChatGPT o1 era, and so today we are going to talk about a number of ways to actually get the most out of this new type of model. Welcome back to the AI Daily Brief. To many, yesterday represented a new era of LLMs, where we had officially jumped into the reasoning era. I'm talking, of course, about OpenAI's new o1 model. This had previously been known as Q-Star or Strawberry, and importantly, is not just a larger model, but something that takes a fundamentally different approach. If you haven't watched it yet, I suggest you go check out my video from yesterday, which does an overview. But by way of quick reminder, Rohan Paul wrote a great tweet summing this up on X, where he said, "How reasoning works in the new o1 models from OpenAI. The key point is that reasoning allows the model to consider multiple approaches before generating final responses. OpenAI introduced reasoning tokens to quote-unquote think before responding. These tokens break down the prompt and consider multiple approaches. The process is 1. Generate reasoning tokens, 2. Produce visible completion tokens as answer, 3. Discard reasoning tokens from context. Discarding reasoning tokens keeps context focused on essential information." Basically, this embeds chain of thought prompting, where you ask the model to think step by step, for example, as just part of the way that the model responds. And so a couple byproducts of this. One is that you actually get a record of how long the new model thinks for. That inference time is not limited to 10 to 20 seconds, although that's the average. The new approach makes the model much better, theoretically, at math, which all of the benchmarks and tests that OpenAI shared seem to validate, scientific research, coding, and also potentially business strategy. What it doesn't mean necessarily is that o1 is going to be better at everything. And so what we're going to try to do today is parse out ways that you actually might get the most value from it. To kick off, there were some great funny tweets. VC/builder Yohei wrote, "I don't think this is how you use o1. His conversation with the model was, waste a whole bunch of reasoning tokens and then say something short. The model thinks for 9 seconds and says, okay. Yohei responds, waste a lot more tokens and say something shorter. The model thinks for 16 seconds and then says okay with just 2 letters. But what about people who actually got the model to do something interesting? The first category of uses that I've seen, which are by far the most prominent so far, at least when it comes to what people are sharing on AI Twitter, could be basically summed up as riddles or brain teasers that previous models had problems with. Ava Pilato asked o1, if the goat has 4 legs, it has A, a below average number of legs, B, the average number of legs, C, an above average number of legs. Which answer is correct? The model responded C, an above average number of legs. While goats are typically 4-legged animals, some goats may have fewer than 4 legs due to injuries or birth defects. That means the average number of legs per goat is slightly less than 4. Therefore, a goat with 4 legs has an above average number of legs compared to the average across all goats. Eva said all previous models got it wrong, but the new GPT-o1 preview is the first to get the goat with an above average number of legs question right. Mara Angelili wrote, o1 successfully writes a very difficult poem that no previous model got even close to writing. I was very shocked by this. The planning and reflection that succeeded at this task takes is insane. Inference time compute is very cool. The prompt was, write me a poem with 12 lines. The first letters of the odd line should spell out Miran, and the first letters of the even line should spell out Jalili. The first letters of the words in each line should spell out a country name. This one took the model a while. It thought for 35 seconds. And then it did the thing that was asked. The first line, for example, is morning airlifts inspiration, Mali, journey awakens people at night, Japan, evenings glow yearning peaceful thoughts, Egypt, all nights give everlasting adventures, Angola. Anyways, you get the idea. Another set of these comes from Matt Clifford, who wrote, this morning I had my first visceral aha moment with AI for 2 years. My test for new models is a set of cryptic crossword clues that aren't online, because his grandmother wrote them. Every model so far has been completely useless at them, but o1 gets them. The first one is food made by 2 small relatives. o1 thought for 11 seconds and came up with the answer couscous. The explanation, couscous is a type of food, and the word cous could be short for cousin, so combining 2 cous gives you couscous, or 2 small relatives. He then gives a bunch more, but the point again here is that where previous models like GPT-4o were unable to solve these things, o1 actually was. I will give it to Matt, he got it to think for 72 seconds, which is one of the longer thinking periods I've seen. Daniel Jeffries did something similar. I'm running o1 through my private intelligence test, which I call the AIQ test. I pulled many of the problems from old out-of-print intelligence test and math problems books, and I wrote my own variations once I learned the patterns and copied some of the problems that were super intricate. There is 0 chance any model has ever seen these questions. No model has ever done better than 40% on this test. I never published the questions or the benchmark because I don't want any leakage ever. This is a true thinking and reasoning test. It's now cracked. It has gotten 100% right so far, and I've run it through the hardest questions first. This model is taking different amounts of time to reason through the problems I am giving it as if it is really thinking. In the two cases Daniel references, it took 12 minutes and 10 minutes to come up with answers before responding. Overall, he writes, what I predicted about it a few months ago in my Realistic AGI article was dead on. This model is now supremely capable of hard reasoning, though common sense and funny reasoning are unlikely with the current approach. Because OpenAI basically improved the decade-old Q*RL technique that DeepMind used to train video game playing agents. It basically creates a deterministic policy, meaning that once the network learns to go right up a hill in a video game, it will always go right. That makes it perfect to extend to advanced hard reasoning tasks that have a right and wrong answer, which is why you are seeing great results on coding, math, and science. He then points out a question, however, that is a common sense reasoning task that the model got wrong. Ultimately, he writes, we still don't have fuzzy human-like reasoning, but hard, deterministic, and searchable reasoning seems cracked now. Either way, this model is a real breakthrough and something very different. Okay, so you're starting to get a feel here that there really is something different going on. That on these tests of intelligence and reasoning, this model is doing really well. But of course, you might be someone like me who's saying that's all well and good and wonderful and cool and advanced, but what are the problems that it actually solves for me, especially the boring day in and day out problems? I will note that at this stage, there is a lot less of that experimentation that has gone on, but we are starting to see at least some of it. Professor Ethan Mollick, who has had access for a little while now, writes, fun things to do with your limited O1 preview that can show you the power limitations. His 3 ideas: give it an RFP and just ask it to do the work. Give it an academic paper and ask it to offer strategies for replication. Ask it to create an entrepreneurial product that it can build. You'll note here, especially as we compare this to what Daniel said, that no matter what, you're going to be in the realm of the subjective. For example, one of the things that he writes is, come up with an idea for a startup that you can implement entirely for me and tell me how to do it. It thought for 10 seconds and came up with an AI-powered personal productivity coach. And of course, to really understand how good it was at this, you probably want to run this through GPT-4 to see how it compares. Ali Miller, who is focused on AI in business, tried to get into a few examples of specific business-type tasks. One was an optimized staffing schedule, where she gave it a complex office setup and asked it to figure things out. Another was the design of an efficient warehouse layout. And what I like about these two examples is that while they are business challenges, they actually involve what you could consider a right answer, in the sense that if you're looking for staffing schedule optimization, maybe there are different criteria for what a right answer could be, but if you pick a criteria, you can actually come up with a right answer. Same with the warehouse layout. It's not just subjective based on what layout you happen to like more, it's actually going to be based on factors like how much you can fit in and how much money you can make based on that. One that's a little fuzzier and more generally strategic, she had it assess the risks of a company merger. This is one like with Professor Mollick's example, I'd want to see GPT-4o's comparative answer, although the difference here is that rather than just generalist risks, Ali was trying it with specific financial information so that O1 could deploy its new reasoning capabilities that actually involve numbers and math. Similar, her last example is evaluating an investment project. So this, I think, is super instructive. What Ali is uncovering is that O1 can be much better at business strategy questions, specifically when those strategy questions involve numbers and when there is, in fact, a correct answer based on some criteria. AKA, the more objective the question, the better O1 is going to be at helping you. I was interested to see, though, in the context of business strategy that wasn't strictly objective, it was more subjective, were there still improvements with the new model? So I tried the same prompt on GPT-4o and on O1 Preview. I basically used the super intelligent example. I said, my company is an AI enablement platform that helps companies catalog and track all their AI usage. We're a seed stage company, so have limited resources for sales and business development. What market segment would you focus on, SMB, mid-market, or large corporations, and why? And then create a sales plan to reach them. The responses from 4.0 and 0.1 on this prompt were fairly similar. They both determined that mid-market was the best approach for a variety of reasons, and there was a lot of similarities in the plans that they came up with. To the extent that there was a difference, and there was, it was less about the quality of the strategic thinking and more about comprehensiveness. O1 Preview went a lot deeper on each of its various points. In other words, showing more reasoning. To the extent then that you are using ChatGPT as a brainstorming partner, it may be that the model which shows more of its reasoning and is more comprehensive is more likely to help you actually make your own decisions. Still, to the extent that there is a clear early winner in terms of how people are using and loving O1 Preview, it's for coding. Amar Reshi, who is the head of design at 11 Labs, writes, just combined O1 and Cursor Composer to create an iOS app in under 10 minutes. Amar used O1 Mini because O1 was actually taking too long to kick off the project, and then switched to O1 Preview to finish the details. He was able to get to a full weather app for iOS with animations in under 10 minutes. Saurabh Chalke writes, GPT-01 just generated a holographic shader from scratch, saving me and future XR devs from shelling out big bucks on asset stores. In retrospect, software engineering was great while it lasted. A new fork on our tech tree. Riley Brown, who is now a couple months deep in his transformation from not coding to coding thanks to AI, wrote, "Guys, I just shed a tear. Was hit with a pinch me I must be dreaming moment." And in this way, O1 has nudged the conversation that we started yesterday around AI eating SaaS down the line a little further. Arab tweets, "My hypothesis on the future of software. Billion-dollar SaaS companies are cooked. Marginal cost of building software products is going to zero. In the next 2 years, I'll be able to build any SaaS tool I need. Need a CRM? Prompt 123 and it's made. Just for me and with every feature you need. Many startups and giants today will crumble. The only software products that will remain will have the following criteria: network effects like social products, superior design, products that feel better, or distribution that can reach more people." Obviously, this isn't about O1 directly, but I do think that O1 advances the credibility of this type of thinking. So in terms of advice on how to use this, Andrew Main writes, "Don't think of it like a traditional chat model. Frame O1 in your mind as a really smart friend you're going to send a DM to solve a problem." Andrew also says that planning out what you need in a prompt is really beneficial here. OpenAI also published prompting guidelines. They suggest keeping prompts simple and direct, avoiding chain of thought prompts, using delimiters for clarity, and limiting additional context in retrieval augmented generation. Overall, I think we're just at the cusp of starting to understand what this model is useful for. Ethan Malik again writes, "It's becoming clear that AGI is going to be as jagged as everything else about AI. We will see superhuman ability at narrow tasks happen one by one, with obvious gaps or lags in many others. When a universal AGI will happen is unclear, but a jagged AGI-ish world seems likely." My big takeaway so far, as I mentioned, if you are looking for how to use O1 for business, is that the more there is an objective right answer, the better suited to solving that problem O1 is going to be. At the end of the day, of course, however, there is no substitute for experimentation. So turn this off, fire up ChatGPT. If you have a pro account, you now have access to O1, and I'm very excited to see what you build. Appreciate you listening as always, and until next time, peace.